Hey there. Hey there, everybody. How's it going? So, I'm a little low energy today, and part of that reason is because I'm not exactly feeling well. I may be sick, might not, I don't know. Anyway, for the past hour I've been sitting here and I was reading through discussions, of course.
Resident Evil 0.
And one of the discussions was a person who essentially rage baited saying, let's see, they were saying Resident Evil 0 is full on trash. And if you like it, then in your denial of how if you like Resident Evil 0 at all, then you're like, what their take was Resident Evil 0 all around is crap. Complete crap. And if you at all like it, then you are delusional. And in denial. This person got a lot of replies, many calling him out on his reasoning for it, which was the fact that, let's see, which was, for Resident Evil 0, he essentially had the mindset that people tend to have when it comes to he had the mindset that, let's see, guilty until proven innocent. That was the mindset that he had. Guilty until proven innocent. Guilty until proven innocent. However, he provided no reasoning. He provided no reasoning for Resident Evil 0 being terrible. Outside of it just is, deal with it. And look, I'll get to it. This is a bit roundabout again to him. Fuck. I'm getting to is a bit roundabout. Anyway, I got into a comment in the post to where they essentially listed the flaws of the game, and a lot of the flaws were just the design choices for the game itself, and classic RE in general. And to that I have to say, I'm sorry, but you cannot judge a game like Resident Evil and say it's terrible. I would like this. Classic Resident Evil is purposely designed with fixed camera angles like this. And tank controls. You know. Forward is forward, backward is back. Or essentially, joystick up is forward, joystick down is backward. Joystick left and right are essentially just turning. You know, that kind of thing. And see, as well as item management and as well as conserving your ammo and such. What is it? See. Item management, tank controls, fixed camera angles. As well as being conservative whenever it comes to your ammo. You're healing and you're saving. Upon reading that comment, I was like, you cannot say the game is terrible because of all this. It's purposely designed that way. Every Resident Evil back then was designed this way, on purpose. Doesn't make them bad. For Christ's sake, for Christ's sake, that's like saying that Horizon Zero Dawn is terrible because of the way it is. Or saying, let's see. Or saying that Assassin's Creed is terrible because of the fact that because of the fact that you're puppeteering a character, through past history. And you just can't jive with that. So you call it bad. That is awful reasoning. And top it off, to say that it's the flaws of the game itself, no. If the game is purposely designed that way, then no, it is not a flaw. For a flaw to be present, for a flaw to be present, it has to be. for something in the game to be a flaw, it has to be something that was unintentional. Completely unintentional. And to top it off, it has to be... Christ. It has to be a... It has to be a problem. It has to be a problem even people who like the game and play it consistently encounter and don't like and acknowledge. That is a flaw. A flaw in itself is not intentional game design. And you can't click with it. It's not the same thing. And frankly, I have had a lot of people who try and say this. And it's usually those who have been playing the newer games. All saying that... Christ. All saying the classic design of Resident Evil was completely flawed. And to them I say, you are fucking spoiled. That's putting it bluntly, and frankly, if that bugs you, I'm sorry, but you gotta deal with it. You are fucking spoiled because of the newer games. You're so spoiled by the newer games, you can't stomach what the games were way back when in the heyday. Or during its rise, essentially. And sure, there are some that will be saying, let's see here. I can judge it because those things are outdated. But then I say, no, you can't. No, you can't, because there are a lot of games like that have come out today. that in fact use those design choices. And those games are well received. You want an example? Tormented Souls. Tormented Souls and Tormented Souls 2 that just came out recently. Just because you don't jive with it doesn't mean it's a problem. And part of the reason I say... Christ. And another part of the reason why I say you're spoiled is due to the fact that... Let's see here, Let's see. You guys soft-lock yourselves. How do you do this? Simple. Oh. You do this by... You do this by trying to play the classic games the way you do the way you do the the way you do the goodness me, the way you do the newer games, where you gun down everything in sight, and you wonder as to why you get to a boss battle with little to no ammo, or little to no healing, whatever. I'm sorry to say, that's not soft locking. That's you. That's you being stupid and not realizing it. And instead of taking responsibility and saying, you know what, I screwed up. I'll try again and apply what I learned. Oh no, so what do you do? What do you do? You bitch, cry. Blame the game for what you did and call it a soft lock. Why do I still have this? And here's the thing to that. Resident Evil as a series comes from a time to where you literally had to have a pen and paper on hand, and you had to take notes. Which rooms had guns, which rooms had the most ammo, which rooms had healing, which rooms were safe, which ones had enemies, which ones had enemies, and you had to plan your route just to get there safely. And with ammo and healing to spare. That's what it was all about. Trial and error. But these days you have newer...
Follow me.
Fine.
But these days you have newer fans who just refuse to even acknowledge that. Or better yet, they treat trial and error like it's a problem. And then I say, hey. And to that I say, well, I'm sorry. But no. If you don't like trial and error, then don't play the game. Because classic Resident Evil is all about trial and error. Ow! Whoops, my bad. Excuse me. Like, classic Resident Evil is all about trial and error. Especially in your first playthrough. Go through it once, you make mistakes, you die. Reload your save and try again, apply what you learned, and get further. That was the entire point. Plan your route, take notes, and know what to do and where. And if you can't jive with that, fucking doesn't make the game bad. But if you bitch non-stop and try to say it's a bad game for it, that is where I say you're a sore loser. Now, frankly, does Resident Evil 0 in fact have flaws to it? Christ, have flaws to it? Yes, I do think so. Item management, for what it's worth, is a bit funny. Not funny as in you can't make it work, you can. But funny as in it's... funny as in you're constantly having to exchange items with your partner, give this to that character, and then take this to somewhere, or drop this in a certain room and come back for it, and yada yada. It's intentional design, of course. That's not the flaw. The flaw is... Here's the flaw is how it's... Fuck the flaw. The flaw with that is how it's executed. The idea is not the flaw. It's the execution that's the flaw. And so here we are. Christ. I'm going to end my rant on this because I've said it before in many other I've said it before in other videos, of course. And if you watch them, you know you've heard me. You've heard the same stuff before from other players as well. I've also had someone like that try and tell me what. Christ, Christ. Try and tell me just how awful Resident Evil 0. Fuck, Resident Evil 0 is based on the stats of a competitive speedrunner. And to that I say, competitive speedrunning sits in the same vault as in playing raid mode in Revelations or Mercenaries mode in other games competitively. And to that I say, why should I take your opinion on... Why exactly should I take their opinion on this? Therefore, what it's... Christ. Therefore, what it's worth, a minority. Like, it's just... Capcom for its worth isn't really trying to appeal to... Capcom for what it's worth isn't trying to appeal to speedrunners. Or competitive speedrunners. Or competitive players at all. They're trying to appeal to the overall audience. I'm sorry to say, but the minority does not judge what is a good or bad game. It's the majority that does. You know majority rule? It's how it is. If you don't like that, well, I'm sorry, but them's the breaks. It's just how it works. And it's not my fault you can't jive with that either. You can't jive with that? That's on you, not me. It's not on me or anybody else. It's on you. And another good reason as to what made me come up with this was essentially the fact that when I found that comment telling me to take the opinion of competitive speedrunners, that comment was under a video to where someone said, let's see, it's like, the comment was under a video which was, I forget the title. I think the title was, I liked Resident Evil 0, but I'm never playing it again. And every problem they had with the game itself was self-inflicted because they gunned everything down like an idiot. Or essentially, made mistakes like a first-timer. And got mad that they had to redo it all just to get by. I commented on the video, ain't even specified. I'm sorry, but every problem you have with this game, whatever, is self-inflicted because... Fucking because you intentionally went out of your way to gun down every enemy in your path. You didn't have to. The entire point of the game is you have to conserve your ammo. Where every bullet counts. And you have to make it count. Are enemies tanky? Yes. That's a flaw with the game itself. Every normal enemy out there is tanky to a degree. That's... Christ. That is a genuine flaw with the game. However, you decided to gun down everything in your path. And you lose... Fucking Christian, you waste ammo. And don't have any for the boss battle. I'm sorry to say, but the thing is, if you did that and you chose to, that's on you. The game didn't make you do that. You did that. You chose to. I even specified in comment. You should have done some research on the game itself, so you'd at least have an idea on how to play it to avoid this happening to you. But you didn't do that. You went in blind and suffered the same fate as everybody else who played. You played Resident Evil for the first time way back when. But instead of getting it... Christ. But instead of getting a pen and paper and taking notes and planning out your route and saying, you know what, that was on me, that was my fault. No, you instead blame the game and say, no, that's a genuine flaw of the game. That's why it's bad. And the fucker even did it again whenever he did a video... Fucking the fucker even did it again when he did a video on Resident Evil Remake. And he titled that as the perfect remake you should never play. No, I'm not joking with you. He made a video on Resident... Look. He made a video on Resident Evil Remake and titled it the perfect Resident Evil Remake that you should never play. He actively discouraged... In the title, he actively discouraged you from playing the game and trying it out. Just because of his own experience. And problems he inflicted on himself. What happened next? The same thing in Resident Evil 0. He had a flood of comments all pointing out the flaws in his reasoning and his discouragement and so on and so forth, and why his experience and fucking how his mistakes soured his experience of the game. And therefore judging the game and therefore judging the game unfairly. The vast majority of the comments under that video is them disagreeing with him and debating with him, pointing out why he's wrong on this, wrong on that, and yada yada, you know. Those videos are prime examples as to why I say, if you started with the reimaginings of Resident Evil 2 and 3, as well as 4, I'm sorry to say, you have been spoiled. And I'm not spoiled as in you know the story. I mean spoiled as in You played the newer games and find it hard to play the older ones. And instead of taking the older... Christ. And instead of taking the older games for what they are, you instead judge them for how good the... Christ. You instead judge them and can dock points because of how good the... Because of how good the newer games are. And discrediting the... And actively discrediting the older games and saying... This is bad because it isn't like this, and yada yada. Do you even know how unfair that is? There's a reason as to why I've said in many videos, especially my Tony Hawk ones early on, especially my Tony Hawk ones early on my channel, mind you. There's a fair reason, like, stuff like that is the very reason as to why I said you shouldn't review things like that at all. Because it isn't fair. Especially when it comes to movies or games from the... Christ. Especially when it comes to movie or game... Especially when it comes to movies or games. You shouldn't judge things from the past through a modern lens. It isn't fair. And you couldn't... Christ. And you shouldn't dock points from the... Christ. And you shouldn't dock points from the early games just because the newer games are better. Or more accessible. That's also not fair. For Christ's sake, it's like a parent and picking the favorite child and saying, for Christ's sake, that in of itself is like a... That in of itself is like a parent picking the favorite child. And talking out of the sibling saying, why can't you be like him? Or her? See how unfair that is? Well, everyone, I hope you'll enjoy, and... Christ. If you don't like my rant, I'm sorry, but them's the breaks. Those are my grievances when it comes to newer players of Resident Evil. And I'm saying this as somebody who loves these games with a passion. I was raised on this series for Christ's sake. With that, I come with a... Christ. With that, I approach it with passion and love because I want people to... Christ. I want people to love Resident Evil and appreciate all the games. Be it old or new, doesn't matter. I like everybody to appreciate the games, bar none. However, I want them to appreciate them fairly. And if you can't do that, then I'm sorry. Then it's not exactly the game's fault that you can't do that. It's your own. God, I want newer players of Resident Evil to look at the older games and judge them as they are, not what they want them to be. I want them to judge them as they are. Look, I want them to judge them as they are, and appreciate them for what they are. But what do I get instead? Nope. It's a bunch of people starting out for the first time and saying, good God, why can't the older games be like these ones? Just doesn't make any sense. These new ones are so much better. Well, everyone, I hope you'll enjoy. If you hated the rant, I'm sorry, but but I had to get that off my chest. And as a fan of this franchise, I believe my opinion of this should be valid. Everybody else's opinion seems to be, especially given how vitriolic they can be sometimes. Or a lot of the time. If theirs is valid, then why can't mine? You know? Everybody should be able to speak their minds, you know? However, with that, I hope you'll enjoy. I've said it 3 times now. I hope you all had a fantastic Halloween, and I'll catch you guys later.